Mr. Bennet's Library, for Emily. With love. Chapter 1. She wrote what? The chill of early autumn pressed upon Meryton, but inside the small room of the parish home, warmth lingered in the company of those who had long known one another. And the foxes, what monsters! Did I ever tell you about the chicken coop I built in the yard? The old man's eyes sparkled with pride. Magnificent it was, I assure you, if you had only seen it. She, seated beside him with needle and thread, paused her mending to offer her full attention. The coat she worked on was his own, and it was fraying at the seams. "Perhaps once or twice, Mr. Ratcliffe," she said kindly. "I enjoy hearing of it. Do describe it once more, if you please." And so the tale began again, one she had heard many times before. Still, she listened. Mr. Ratcliffe paused, scratching his head. His eyes drifted downward as he seemed to lose his train of thought entirely. After a moment he looked back at her. "There are questions that follow a man his whole life, whether he likes it or not. I require your counsel on one of the world's greatest dilemmas. You place too much confidence in me. Now, my dear, I am in earnest. I have pondered this for many a year." "And what might it be, sir?" she pressed. "Well, truly, I must know. What came first, the chicken or the egg?" She smiled, shaking her head. "Well, you have me there, I cannot say. I am an old man still with a boyish wonder," he said, eyes twinkling. "You know, that will be the very first question I ask St. Peter when I get up there." "Well, sir, you are here with me for now, and I cannot help you. But what do you think St. Peter will say?" he asked, leaning forward. "You mean when you get to heaven?" "Exactly. Well, I suppose he will declare the chicken came first," she said thoughtfully. "And where did the chicken come from?" he pressed. "Why, God, of course," she answered, trying not to smile. "I am not so sure, child." She returned to her mending and remained quiet. "And I was once a boy, can you believe it?" Mr. Ratcliffe said. "Of course, sir," she replied with a gentle nod. "And I could run and jump. Do you run and jump?" "Yes, sir." "Excellent," he continued. "And love, have you ever been in love before?" "No, sir." "Well, you must remember there is nothing greater than love. I hope you find it some day." "Thank you, sir," she said softly. The old man settled back in his chair, took a few breaths, and then told her, "Ah, you are a good girl. You come and see me. My boys are all grown. They left as soon as they could, and my nieces hardly care for this old man. But you are the sweet one. You are just like your grandmother, do you know that?" She sat, listening attentively, her fingers deftly mending the worn coat before her. "Mr. Ratcliffe, may I read to you?" "No, no," he protested, shaking his head. "All that reading puts me to sleep. I like talking. It keeps the mind alert, if you please. I once had it was a whole group of us. I'm no good at words, child." "That is quite all right, sir. Just talk, and I will listen. We might be able to figure it out together." And so they sat, the old man rambling and gesturing, recounting the boyhood memories within his declining mind. The 19-year-old gentlewoman listened, sometimes smiling to herself at the familiar stories, but otherwise content simply to be there and say little. By mid-afternoon she had said her goodbyes and left the parish home, walking the familiar lanes back to Longbourn. Nothing of note occurred along the way. The hedges were the same, the sky unremarkable, and she arrived as she always did, without incident, without announcement, and without anyone much noticing at all. Despite her efforts at improvement, these crisp days did little to lift her spirits, and she found herself sitting in her quiet bedroom. She did not want to read, nor practice, nor even to write in her journal. She wished only to sit, and to feel as she did. Such periods had, in the last few years, become familiar to her. When they came, she preferred solitude. Even the kindest inquiries demanded more of her than she could readily give, and she had long found that silence was the easiest refuge. She had sought relief where she was taught it might be found, in reflection, in reading, in prayer, but without success sufficient to satisfy her. What she perceived and what she could express rarely seemed to align. Of all the things she attempted, music most often brought her mind to order. Even that was not easy, but it came nearer than anything else. She wished to become truly accomplished, though she could never have said exactly why. It was simply the one pursuit that felt most like her own. She loved the challenge of it, the slow mastering of difficult passages, the satisfaction of a phrase at last falling into place. But more than either, she loved simply how it sounded beneath her fingers, There was a peace in it she found nowhere else. Her older sister taught her what she could, yet she had long harbored a quiet wish for a proper master. She had never spoken of it. She feared it would sound like pride. "Why, my dear, you must know, Mrs. Long says that Netherfield is taken by a young man of large fortune from the north of England," came her mother's voice rising from downstairs. Loud, abrasive, and entirely unconcerned with how far her words might carry. She slumped her shoulders. The moment was gone. She closed her eyes and tried to let go of the words, to tune her mother out. Her mother's voice only gained strength. "Design nonsense, how can you talk so?" Mrs. Bennet yipped. "But it is very likely that he may fall in love with one of them, and therefore you must visit him as soon as he comes." From downstairs came her father's voice, dry and deliberate. "I see no occasion for that. You and the girls may go, or you may send them by themselves, which perhaps will be still better. For as you are as handsome as any of them, Mr. Bingley might like you the best of the party." Her father's humour was often barbed, but it cut through the chaos like nothing else in the house could. For all his detachment, he paid attention in his own way. Alone in her room, she allowed herself to smile openly. Her mother's voice came back sharper and more flustered now. "You take delight in vexing me. You have no compassion for my poor nerves." "You mistake me, my dear. I have a high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends. I have heard you mention them with consideration for these 20 years at least." "Ah, you do not know what I suffer." She listened, piecing the quarrel together. A new man was coming to Hertfordshire, and already her mother spoke of him, as though the matter were settled. The scene downstairs was familiar enough to make her chuckle, though her father's provocation and her mother's exasperation followed as reliably as ever. The thought it sparked was too good to lose. She reached for her journal, not a diary but a small book where she scribbled musical phrases, half melodies, half complete poems, and the occasional observation. She was no writer, no poet, nor composer. Women did not compose. But this was worth setting down. She bent over the page, smiled and wrote, "It is a truth universally acknowledged, that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." "There," she said flatly, as though she had just documented a particularly dull fact about cabbage.